Hello, and thank you for joining us for the first of a series of programs produced by the Communications Division of the DeKalb County School District. I'm Eileen Houston Stewart, the Chief Communications Officer for the DeKalb County Schools. One of the biggest events in the world will be held right here in our city of Atlanta on February 3rd. It's Super Bowl 53. With all the glitz, the glamour, the stars, and the positive impact on our economy comes a dark side, and that's human trafficking. Every Super Bowl host city knows that the event increases the amount of prostitution and human trafficking in their city. And it's not uncommon for host cities to wage an aggressive campaign against sex trafficking prior to game day. Well, joining me today to discuss this topic and inform our audience are some of my special guests. Dr. Vasan Tinsley, the Deputy Superintendent of Student Support and Intervention for the DeKalb County School District. Ms. Brooke Ruffin, the Operations Manager for an organization called Street Grace right here in Atlanta. Bradley Gober, he's the Director of the Department of Public Safety for the DeKalb County School District. And Ms. Shelley Bishop, Lead Social Worker for DeKalb County Schools. Thank you all for joining me today. What a topic that we need to discuss, and something that I think our parents, our stakeholders, our students, everybody need to be aware of what's happening, not only in the city of Atlanta, but all across, really, the world. Some statistics say that the National Human Traffic Resource Center says that when you look at the top cities and states in the nation, Atlanta ranks number 2 rather, and Georgia ranks number 6 for the top states for human trafficking. And so it may surprise some people that our city ranks that high and are one of the biggest hubs of sex trafficking nationwide. So we want to delve deeper into this topic today and get a little bit of background. So Brooke, I'm going to start with you. Tell us, how do you define human trafficking?
So human trafficking is when force, fraud, or coercion are used to force another person to commit acts against their will, be it labor or to perform sexual acts. So it's in the exchange of something of value. This does not have to be cash. It could be food, shelter, protection, or material goods.
And so tell us a little bit about your organization so we have a better idea of what Street Grace is doing in the city of Atlanta and the surrounding area.
Well, Street Grace is a faith-based nonprofit organization. It was developed here in Atlanta in 2009 to offset the alarming demand for the sex trafficking of children. So through prevention, protection, policy, and pursuit, our focus is on the demand, the buyer population, because we believe that if there were no buyers of sex with children, then we wouldn't have such an alarming instance of trafficking here in Atlanta, because the traffickers would move on to the next thing to sell. Drugs, stolen parts, but right now our children are serving as a free, renewable resource for these perpetrators. So it's imperative that we figure out what is breaking these buyers to lead them to want to purchase sex with children, and what is putting our children at further risk. What can we do to help protect our children and arm our society and our community with the knowledge that we need to protect ourselves from those manipulation tactics?
Director Gober, what makes a city attractive to predators?
Well, a city is attractive is certain things. One of the things is maybe an international population. We have a large international hub because of our airport, so transportation is actually a big attraction. And we have I-75, we have I-85, and I-20, which makes it a hub to be able to transport these victims of this horrible crime to other parts of the country and also to bring them here.
Do you want to have anything to add to that as well, Brooke?
Yes, I think any affluent community is going to have a problem with it because it requires disposable income. You have to have enough money to be committing this crime. So any large city and with a high population is going to have a large instance of trafficking.
Throughout our program, we're going to hear from some of our students. We asked them to give us their input. So we'd like to hear from our first student and their question about human trafficking.
Hi, my name is Trinity, and I go to the DeKalb School of the Arts, and my question is, what are high-risk places for human trafficking?
Well, from my experience and what I've learned is one of the myths about human trafficking is it actually affects every demographic. It's not solely for some race or some socioeconomic background. Of course, kids or children or people that need more, like she was saying, that have, a need for money or protection or housing or food are going to be a little bit more at risk. And sometimes that falls down to, of course, our international population. But it affects all forms. And I know we like to focus on the urban areas, the larger cities, but actually there's human trafficking in the suburban areas also.
Right, and piggybacking off of that, 65% of the trafficking here in Atlanta occurs outside of the perimeter, with 42% being north following the disposable income. So all of our youth are at risk just because they are more easily manipulated than adults. Their frontal lobes aren't fully developed. So they can fall for things that an adult might not even consider.
As a school district, Dr. Tinsley and Ms. Bishop, what are we doing to raise awareness among our students and our teachers and staff?
Well, I really appreciate you asking that. We are very excited that we have had the opportunity for presentations for our school principals. We have had our principals hear from Street Grace and other organizations to just talk about what's going on, to talk about some of those demographics and really those warning signs to be aware of. We have done the same thing with our increasing awareness with our social workers and our counselors, because this is something that they see all of the time. They know about our students that are vulnerable, our vulnerable populations, but just honing in to what's happening during this unique time in our metro area surrounding, preparing for the Super Bowl.
And every year, school social workers complete a training, an in-service with teachers and staff to talk about the warning signs and what to see if a child has been maltreated. And so it's very good that our school district works together, interdisciplinaries work together, such as our school counselors, such as our school psychologists, our school nurses, as well as social workers, and we work in concert to make sure that our kids are safe.
Well, our teachers and our staff may be aware, but as a parent, what do they need to be on the lookout for?
Well, and that is really why we have jumped into this campaign Feet First this year, wanting to make sure that they understand that there are things that you may see, just students that are being withdrawn, students that are changing behaviors, students that may be changing their schedules of seeing friends, going to friends' houses, because that's what we know, and we understand that these are the types of things that can trigger maybe not even full involvement with trafficking, but behaviors that could lead them down that road in the future.
Ms. Bishop, what do teens need to be on the lookout for?
Well, I mean, I say their peers. Number one is that they need to take time out to be leaders and not followers, and that if their behaviors change within their relationships, I know peer to peer they try to influence one another, so they need to just be aware of those warning signs. If they're used to hanging out with friends and then their behaviors change and they want to do something different, that's unwarning some behaviors that's pretty negative. So I think they should be aware of their own peer relationships, and that they should also, if they see something, they should say something.
And I appreciate you saying that, because one of the things that we have noticed is some of the information that we have been able to actually learn about what's happening with our students comes from peers. Peers that will report to administrators, or peers that report to their other friends, hey, this is what's going on, or I'm a little concerned about my friend. And we're able to get in there and research it and find out what's happening and make the parents aware. Sometimes, unfortunately, the parents don't realize what's happening until we bring it to their attention. So I think increased awareness, segments like this will help tremendously with that.
Let's hear another question from one of our students.
Hi, I'm Janaya, and I come from Arabian Mountain High School. My question about human trafficking would be, what would be the biggest impact of human trafficking?
I would say the largest impact is that it's such a lucrative business, so that makes it harder to fight, because it's some people's livelihoods that are depending on this. Recently I heard that if human trafficking were listed on Forbes 100, it would be 12. So that just proves, and here in Georgia, it's estimated to be a $290 million industry. And the average trafficker in Atlanta can make up to $33,000 a week. So, of course, the effect on our population and those being trafficked is terrible, and the estimated cost for rehabilitation is estimated to be $200,000. So it's a burden on our society that if we can get ahead of the problem and not continuously only provide rehabilitative services, but get to the source of the problem, figure out what is catapulting the cycle of abuse rather than just healing the broken. So I think the biggest impact that it's having currently is just its anonymity is allowing it to be one of our most successful businesses in this country. So we have to first start there, start with the money and cut off the demand so then the supply doesn't have to be continuously regrown.
Cities that host huge events, whether it's big concerts or something like the Super Bowl, are prime targets, we said, for human trafficking. But the predatory behavior really begins way before the actual event happens in a city. Is that not right?
Yes, this predatory behavior, because the business is so lucrative, pretty much it is a business. I think the Department of Homeland Security says that it's only second to drug trafficking in the United States as far as how lucrative it is. And so they start in neighborhoods. The people that are preying on sometimes are most vulnerable and our children. So that's why it's important for law enforcement to be engaged with these other departments like social work, the Department of Family and Children's Services, with our faith-based organizations, to make sure that we're on top of it and looking at it from a holistic standpoint before we get to these events, because that's the only way we got to do it. We got to stop it one person at a time, and we got to cut the head off in the demand.
And we have our own police department with their public safety department within our school district, and we're very fortunate. A lot of school districts don't have that, and we're very fortunate to have that in our school district. And so, Director Gober, how do we work with other law enforcement jurisdictions in the area and in the state on an issue like this?
Well, we actually have a great partnership with the DeKalb Police Department, with the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, and with the FBI when it comes to human trafficking. The DeKalb County Police Department has a DeKalb Sex and Youth and Sex Department that actually handles drug trafficking. That's a task force in DeKalb County. And the district attorney also has a task force. So anytime we suspect any of our children that are involved with that, and it may reach outside of the school district, we make sure that our officers contact these other jurisdictions, and we work in partnership.
Great. Well, let's hear another question from one of our students.
Hi, my name is Dimitri. I come from Druid Hills High School. My question for human trafficking is, who is more affected? Would it be the males or would it be the females?
Young men and women normally enter for different reasons. The average age of entry for a female is 14, whereas male it's 13. And young boys are entering for what we call survival sex. It's sex for food, shelter, protection. And with the alarming case of bullying in our schools, protection has become more and more evident in this case. And sextortion through online gaming. Online gaming is something that parents aren't wholly aware of how much communication they're able to have through those gaming systems and how much sextortion is occurring in order to get that online currency, which is very important to an 11-year-old boy. Whereas girls are entering via emotional manipulation. Maybe her trafficker is also her boyfriend or her father, her uncle, her brother. Maybe it's the first person who told her that she was beautiful, celebrated her birthday, got her nice gifts, and suddenly he's going to have to leave if he can't pay his rent. And so she just does this one time. She's so beautiful, she could make so much money, he'll stay and get her out of that potentially already abusive situation that she's in at home.
We have another question from one of our students.
Hi, my name is Kai. I attend Arabia Mountain High School, and my question is, does physical violence have to be involved in human trafficking cases?
Well, it's always a threat of violence because they try to emotionally control the person, and if they can control them through manipulation or emotional control, like you said, through money or currency, they will. But if all that fails, violence is always looming in the background because that is what they're going to use to try to control the victim, is violence.
Right. Delta Airlines recently announced ahead of the Super Bowl that they're launching a new campaign, an in-flight video and enhanced signage to help passengers better understand how to spot human trafficking. So if we as individuals, as citizens, just feel like there's something wrong, that gut feeling, that this isn't right or what I'm seeing may not be right, what can we do as individuals to help stem this problem within our community? Open that to any of you.
I think I said it before. If you see something, you say something. I think we have to be able to listen and want to be available for any victim. Be there, have that empathic ear to just want to hear, and also just notice the signs. If someone is disheveled, if someone has changed their behavior in the schools, and the parents that come in as well. I mean, we're just not here to serve our students. We're here to serve the entire family and the community. So even our business leaders, educate them. Our hotels on the main corridor of in DeKalb, we should be speaking to them about warning signs and things that they can pay attention to. So like Director Gober said, it should be a community effort, and that's how we embrace and I think if people embrace it, then they'll understand it, and then the change can come, like Brooke said.
I think one of the things is we have to realize that this is a problem. I think we have to open our eyes and understand that this is going on. This is a reality, and not just because of the Super Bowl coming soon, but this is something that goes on 365 days a year. We talked about earlier that our international airport, it sits right here. It's close to this community, but it's easy access. If you look at and you go into different buildings, you go into the airport, you see signs that are up in hotels that make people aware, hey, if you see this, this is what you need to do. Also understanding, I think that there is an important link to mental health with this. And this is something that people don't talk about. We talk about antecedents and we talk about what happened and why. Oftentimes you're talking about self-esteem. You're talking about maybe some past abusive experiences. You're talking about negative peer relations, negative self-perception, and just basic teens growing up thinking that I need to fit in and I need to belong. So all of these, I think, are very important things for us to focus on through training, through talking to our parents, talking to our communities, our business leaders, and just making sure that this stays on the forefront 365 days a year.
Brooke, as your organization has been working diligently on this issue, what message do we want to send to those people out there who think that they can exploit our children in our community?
I would say that we're not allowing it anymore. We're removing the anonymity. We're making it table conversation. We have been afraid to broach such an evil subject with our children, and that has allowed this problem to fester. It's a lot like a mold. It's been given everything it needs to grow, and now we just have to shine a light on it and be very vocal, arm our children. We always say 8 is great. Don't be scared to bring up these topics with your children because they're already learning it from their peers at school. If they're not hearing it from a safe place, they might already be being groomed for this type of behavior in the future, or to become part of the demand if we're not treating our children on what a proper relationship should be, what a healthy relationship looks like, and what amount of respect they deserve.
Well, as we close our show, we'll give our guests one more opportunity for any closing remarks. Ms. Bishop, we'll start with you.
Yes, I would just like to say, utilize your resources in the school. We have trained professionals to help you, to listen to you, people who care about you, from your teachers on down to your nutrition managers. Everyone in the school is there for you. It is a safe place for you to go. So if you need to speak with someone, also you have your trained school social workers and your school counselors there for you as well. So I would say you're not alone. Someone is there to listen to you.
Detective Gold.
I would echo what Ms. Bishop said. You have, in the school system, you have your school resource officer. And I would implore not only the students, but the parents and faculty and staff, when you think something is wrong, see something, say something. The school resource officer is exactly that. They're a police officer, but they're a resource, not only for the school, but for the community. So please I implore you, if you see something that you think is not right, contact your school resource officer, and then we will take the proper steps to rectify the situation.
Great. Brooke?
I would just say take initiative. You know, save the National Human Trafficking Hotline in your phone. They also have a text feature. And everybody would much rather you report a case that turns out to not be sex trafficking than for you to just move on with your day. So just take it upon yourself. You never know when you're going to be in the position to be somebody's hero. And to just talk about it, spread awareness, have Street Grace come and train at your place of worship or your school. Just take the initiative to get that message out and to really increase your advocacy for this issue.
Dr. Tinsley?
I really just want to say that we are here to support our students and our families. So appreciative of our superintendent, Dr. R. Stephen Green, who has given us this challenge to make sure that we're doing any and everything that we can to keep all of our students safe. So continuing to have this type of discussion and dialogue, working with our parents, our community leaders, and helping everyone to understand that this is something that we will not tolerate in DeKalb County schools. And understanding that we have the supports available through our social work department, our school resource officers, our school counselors, training our administrators. And this shows that this is very, very important to us. So I just think that as long as we continue the conversation and look at those things that lead to this unfortunate type of behavior, we will make sure that our students are safe as they come to school every day.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all of my guests. We broached this subject, and hopefully we have raised some awareness on this topic, and that now that you know the signs and know how to get involved, and if you're interested in volunteering your time to help with the serious epidemic in our community, I'm sure Street Grace would love to have you as part of the volunteer community. We hope that you'll join us the next time. If you have an idea for an upcoming show, we ask that you let us know, and you can email us at communications@DeKalbSchoolsGA.org. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.